today I'm going to cook from the Healthy Mind Cookbook. It's springtime, so I'm going to make the roasted asparagus soup with pistachio cream. These are really beautiful thick asparagus. Sometimes the ends can be a little tough. So one way that you can work with the asparagus to find the place where it begins to get more tender is if you just take a little bend here. Oops, since I cut myself in the face with it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to roast this asparagus to make it more sweet, to bring out the natural sweet and to help develop more flavor in there. When you're working with asparagus, you want to find asparagus that's nice and tight, that the heads are still closed on here, and then it's moist and not dry looking. Those are the freshest ones. And then we're going to take the peeler and just peel the ends of it really quickly. This removes some of the fibrous outer part.
So do you want a roasting pan?
Yes, please, a roasting pan. And then I'm going to go ahead and separate the tips from the stalks, because in this recipe what we're going to do is use the tips for the garnish, and the soup is blended, so we're going to put the stems in the soup part, the soup body. So we're getting a 2-for-1 out of this recipe with these little ladies, as you call them.
Yeah, the elegant long ladies of spring.
Let's drizzle with a little olive oil. This is going to help bring up that nice golden color. We're not going to measure here, we're just going to put that on. Look at how beautiful they begin to look. And then we add some salt.
Now, should I?
Yeah, do you want to get your hands in there?
Can I?
I know, I can see your itching.
Can I?
Get your hands
itching.
in there. All right,
I'm itching.
You go. Put your hands in there.
Whoops. You know, I always say it, I love to play with food. It's like being at the sandbox.
All right, so those will go into the oven and they'll roast for about, I don't know, 8 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's just quick.
Doesn't take long.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm gonna pop this in.
So this recipe calls for 2 leeks, but this is a great big leek, so I'm calling this 2 leeks. So we're going to take off the outer parts of it. Leeks can be really sandy and dirty, so one of the ways I like to work with them is to bring them back over to the sink and let the water run inside there. Sometimes you could peel back the bottom portion here, the outer leaves a little bit, and rinse out any sand. I like to leave the ends on here so that they're not spreading all over the place. And I just take the knife and run it down. We're going to saute these. And then go across. With this recipe, since it's a blended soup, you don't have to really be too particular about your cuts. Except for that, you want them approximately the same size so that they cook at the same rate. You can see how light and fresh this soup is is looking. All these very deliciously, sort of, not delicate, but just lighter. We're coming out of that heavy, dense, rooty season and into the more upward, light green, air type of season. So here we're going to just cut this potato also. This is going to help give this soup some body, the starch from the potato. I'm going to put it in a separate bowl because it's going to go in at a different time. All right, let's see how these things are doing. And you see how they're beginning to get nice and kind of moist looking and a little bit brown. Those are new flavor compounds that are being formed to help develop some different kinds of tastes in here. Okay, so we're ready to cook. I'm going to heat my pan. We like to heat the pan first so that the oil isn't spending too much time exposed to the heat. And you'll know when your pan is hot because your hand won't want to be there anymore. It's kind of easy to determine. So there's no real magic to it other than when your hand says get out. Okay, we'll pour in some olive oil, just a couple tablespoons. All right, so in go the onions. Can you hear? Listen. So we're going to add a pinch of salt to those. I like to give it a shake. It's tempting to want to rush this step, But honestly, to not rush this step is going to bring up a whole lot more flavor. So try to be patient if you can. Give these a stir, maybe go wash a dish or something, and then come back to your pot, because this will give you rewards in terms of flavor when we get the soup finished. Okay, you can see how these are beginning to get really translucent and almost sticky looking. They begin to change, and these are the sugars that are starting to come out from the onions. And why we know they're sugars is because they're starting to get this golden color down here. There's some on the pot here, and there's some on the edges of the leeks, right in there. So those are new flavors that are being formed. Now we're going to add in another character. So when we add in another character, in this case it's going to be potatoes, we want to add more salt. And because potatoes are little salt pigs, we're going to add a little bit more. So rather than adding salt at the end, which many recipes do, when something's not tasting right, people are trying to find flavor in there, so they begin to add salt or cayenne or whatever, to have their mouth tell them, it's right, it's right. But what we're doing here is we're beginning to build flavor from the bottom up. So all of our salt, or the majority of our salt that's going into this recipe, which is less than in any other processed kind of food recipe, is being added from the early stages, and we're building up from there. All right. And those are garlic. All right. So now this is a little trick we're going to use called deglazing. We're going to take a bit of this broth and we're going to pour some in. I would say about a cup or so. A little more. Oops. I'm going to make that heat up high, and what we're going to do is deglaze this pan. I like to call this locking the flavors in. And now we have this beautiful, rich, wonderful tasting soup base. This also gives us a chance to scrape up any of those golden brown bits that are on the bottom. Rebecca calls this a flavor seal. You see how it's beginning to get sort of thick and glazy looking? So we're going to add the remainder of the broth. This is looking nice and thick and bubbly. Another 4 cups or so. We can always add more broth later if we need to adjust the texture of the soup if it's not thin enough. So it's easier to under add the broth and then make the soup too thin, because then it's harder to get the texture right at the end, or the consistency right at the end. So while the soup is cooking, I'm going to make the pistachio cream. But the recipe for any kind of nut-based drizzle for the top is essentially the same. So it's 1 cup of water. These are pistachios, 1 cup, like that. We're going to add a couple teaspoons of lemon. I'm not going to measure it, but this is that other fast ingredient. It's a little bit of acid in here. We want it to be bright, and we want it to be alive, because we know we can always change it later. We can always adjust it when we're doing our fasting. And some salt. So anyway, I like to go ahead and get my consistency down first with the Vitamix. Make sure all the nuts are nice and blended. You want to make it very creamy, really, really smooth. That gives it that beautiful, luxurious mouthfeel. Rather than, you don't want bumps in there. You don't want the bumps. So again, take your time with here. So we're going to put our Vitamix on. This recipe calls for a couple teaspoons of mint. That's really hard to tell how many that is. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, 10 plus the top. I'm going to call that 1 teaspoon. If that were chopped up roughly, that would be about one teaspoon. So that's going to go right into the Vitamix, and we'll go with another 10 mint leaves or so. There you go. Let's blend this eye up. Okay, the other reason why I like to add especially fresh herbs after the balance is pretty much there, the foundation is there, is that when you whirl around the mint or the fresh herbs too much, depending on what herb it is, it can sometimes make it bitter. And then we're chasing it around trying to balance it up. So we can add those in at the end here. Let me just give this a taste. See if any tweaking needs to happen. That much lemon to just fine tune this, and an itty bitty tiny pinch of salt. I mean, we're talking like that many granules, not much, but that little tiny amount will make a big difference, and it'll really bring this together. These potato and onion mixture into the Vitamix. I'm not even going to clean it. This is just going to add another little depth of flavor here. So there's no need to even rinse it. You know what? This is all going to fit in here. But if you happen to have a smaller blender at home, you might need to do this in stages, so that it doesn't go blasting out of the top. It's in there. And then we have our beautiful roasted stems from the asparagus. This is going to be our base. Any sort of leftover juice and oil, I'm going to make sure that gets into the blender as well. The base here, once we move it around at high speed in the Vitamix, this is a tiny bit thick. We want it to fall off the spoon, not blop off the spoon, but sort of, be soup texture. All right, and again, if we made this too thin in the beginning, we wouldn't be able to. But you can see now, look at this beautiful, smooth consistency, and look at that color. Isn't that amazing? Not one bump in there. This feels in the mouth like it's loaded with fat and cream, and there's none in here at all.
Now that we've added the salt.
Yeah, way better. Because it's all happening more in the middle now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's happening much closer. So, when I would say this is the yum button.
Right.
Right? So we want to move everything forward. But you know what? I still think it could use a little bit of like
razzle dazzle.
It needs that lemon, but like only like maybe 4 drops, maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Not that much.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6.
Okay, try that.
Now I know, people are gonna think we're crazy, right? 'Cause it's like homeopathic doses. But 6 drops of lemon juice can make a big difference. So let's see if it did what we want. Here.
Yeah, it's a little. Oh, wow.
See? It sassed it up.
Yeah, it did. And it's not sour at all. It's more like it's just more interesting.
Yes, and I think what it's important for people to know is that it doesn't taste like lemon.
Right.
It just is pushing all of those flavors underneath.
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah, it elevates it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, elevates it. And now I'm beginning to taste asparagus a little more. Yeah.
So,
for fun, I'm curious, just for fun.
a drape?
Yeah, a tiny drape of mate.
Okay, and then, like maybe 2 drops.
All right. Now I'm nervous that it's going to go flying in there, so I'll just do this. Boom.
That's it. See that?
Tiny,
That's it.
Tiny. We just need some molecules in there. That's
it. That's it. That is like less than 1/8 of a teaspoon.
Oh my God. Yeah. And so he's sort of like waving it over.
Yeah, it's like waving it over. Right. It's like a dry martini, right? Nobody is going to believe us, but this is going to make a difference.
I know. I just love how doing this makes it so that the flavor is so high and beautiful without any of the usual add-ons,
Yeah. We have something else to put on this.
Oh,
now
right.
this should take it over the edge.
Right.
Into the land of yum.
With that mint in there, it's going to be so fresh.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready?
Here we go. Yum. That's
so good.
Boom. That's excellent.